Ola, how are you?
Hi, John. How you been?
I have been great. It's good to see you're back in London. So you've had some good
Yes.
travels and you're home.
I'm home and it's not raining at the moment. The sun is actually shining. Always a win when that
Good.
happens.
That is a big win. Now, did you make sure that your insurance is updated for your flat? Do you have insurance?
I do have insurance, yes, for my flat.
All right,
So,
good. That's very important for today's topic because
yes, it is.
actually we've got Eshwar Pastapur, the CIO of Hastings Mutual Insurance, as a guest today. So we're going to talk a little bit about insurance.
Awesome. Looking forward
Let's
to it.
let's bring him on.
Hey,
Ishwar, how are
John.
you?
I'm doing fine, John. How are you?
Very good, very good. Listen, when we talk about insurance, I just let's just get it out of the way. It tends to be dry. It tends to be not that generally interesting at a dinner conversation. But I will tell you, you and I had dinner a few months ago,
Yeah.
and I've been overwhelmed by how enthused I am about insurance, thanks to you. So, looking forward to today's conversation for sure.
Oh, me too, John. I love those. I loved our conversation. I think it was a couple of few months back, right? So
Yeah, yeah, it
really
was great.
wonderful. Is this live though? Is this live?
This is a live show.
This is
It's live. No redos here, Ishwar. No redos.
No redos. So
I
so
mean,
tell us a
it's
little bit about Hastings Mutual.
yeah.
Tell us how big you are, what states you cover.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, John and Ola. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful talk show. Hastings Mutual Insurance Company, we are based out of a small town about 30 miles south of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hastings, of course, is the place. That's where we started. We are a business that do insurance company that do business in about 6 states here locally. Michigan is our biggest state, and we write commercial insurance. We also do personal insurance, and then of course we have a small segment of farm insurance as well. So that's kind of our company structure. We employee base wise, we are about 450-ish employees, and most of them are based here nearby. We do, after COVID, we do have people working from other places as well. As you know, the remote is now everywhere. From the commercial side, workers' comp and commercial auto is kind of what our biggest lines of business are. So hopefully that gives you enough perspective of what we do.
That's great. That's great. So tell us a little bit now. You think insurance, it's paperwork, it's all the different documents I have to fill out. Where does a CIO fit in there with regards to some of the interesting things that you're excited about around insurance? Because there's obviously innovation happening. So maybe share a little bit about some of the things you're excited about it in the world of insurance.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot going on actually in the insurance industry. I mean, like you pointed out earlier, people think insurance is boring. It's actually not. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening. Just to give you some perspective, insurance is all about business of large numbers, right? So it's mainly something like many people pay for a few. I mean,
Yeah.
the goal there is to collect all this premium, and not everybody has claims, right? So that's kind of what it is all about. And when you do that, you actually need a lot of data, right? So many companies have now started realizing the fact that data is an asset. And if you talk to our CEO, she says there are two important things in the company. One is, of course, the employee base, right? So without employees, you cannot pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
And we have a wonderful group of people here. And then the second, of course, is data. So if you don't have data, then nothing can happen, right? So what we've been doing, some interesting stuff here at Hastings Mutual is we've been connecting all sorts of data, internal as well as external data, to kind of create a data environment where decisions can be done on expedited way, using actually facts and data and things like that. So we've been working at it for about a few years now. I am really excited to say we delivered some of the interesting solutions to the business, and I can talk about what those are. Usually what happens in many companies, not just insurance, is you get a lot of data, internal data, of course, that is there, and then external data. What we do is we just pick portions of it and discard everything else, right? So it's like going to apple picking, for example, right? And then getting tons of apples to your home and then picking only few to eat and then throwing everything away. You don't
Yeah.
do that. You make an apple pie or something like that out of it, right? So that's kind of what we are trying to do here. We got all that information, internal as well as external, and we've connected all sorts of data and started providing some really good solutions from that perspective, and that allows our business to monetize data. And so we are treating data as an asset, and that's interesting and fascinating place to be. And as you know, data is the foundation for any kind of AI or any other solution. Without data, there is nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And I presume, Eshwar, that you use it, of course, across your entire value chain, right? Obviously, you use it, I'm sure, to
Absolutely.
find and achieve customers. You use it to actually issue insurance policies, determine how
Absolutely.
much that's going to cost a customer based on, I'm sure, lots of interesting information. There's claims processing. Data is in all of it, right?
Data is in everywhere, Ola. I mean,
Yeah.
let me give you an example. So we created what is called as a geospatial tool. My team
Mm.
created that. What it basically does is, once you have all this data in one place, all connected to one another, and if you can geocode it, right? So you can say this policy is in this particular state or a zip code or whatever it is. If you can geocode it, you can then connect all of that into some sort of map. And so on the map, of course, we have our own data. We have our policies, we have our claims, we have our agents. All that data, of course, is given. What we did on top of that is basically started adding in other external data, such as wind and hail and all
Wow.
these weather data that we get. And the beauty of it is all that data is available free of cost in a way. I mean, you don't have to pay a hell lot of money to get that. And so we got all of that data and put it on this, connected all of that, put it on the map. And then we said, what else can we do? Right. So we then went and collected all the census data that is there and put it on the map. Now, that has become, in a way, our digital twin and has given power not only to claims, guys, of course, right? So you can anticipate if a hail damage happens, where it happened, and what kind of claims you can get. They do that already. Our underwriters can now look at it and say, okay, this is where a lot of activities, weather events are happening. We might not want to write a business there. We might want to focus here. Our marketing division, for example, is looking at it from the perspective that where should I nominate more agents? We're an independent agent kind of a business model, right? So we will have to identify agents who want to work with us. But if you go for places where there is a lot of weather events or things that are happening, then you might want to avoid those areas, right? So it's actually that data now, this tool has given so much power to our organization that it's being used all over the place. And we are, in fact, in a way, monetizing all of that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I look back and I love this weather data piece. I think that's a really interesting use case. I remember 25 years ago, my wife and I lived in a house in Newtown, Connecticut, and we get a letter from the bank saying that we need flood insurance. Now, there was a little tiny brook that maybe was a half inch deep. And on a really, really rainy day, it was 3 inches deep and it was about 4 feet below the ground.
Yeah,
And so, it took us months to kind of walk everybody through how most likely the earth was in a lot more trouble, or at least the state of Connecticut, if John Bocuzzi's house flooded
yeah,
from that stream. And but now I think the accuracy is what you're saying, is like the ability to kind of really understand what's happening in the marketplace is incredible because of that, the data you're able to collect. Is that correct?
absolutely, absolutely. And that's kind of where all insurance companies are going towards, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of data. How do you connect those data elements, right? And make sure that you can use that in your day-to-day basis, of course, all these dashboards and the way you make decision. And then finally, how do you monetize it? That's the important piece, because you collect all that data, don't do anything about it, then it doesn't make sense. And it will also help you in all those AI models and whatnot, because data, as I said, is the key, is the foundation for all of that.
Yeah, it's that
Well,
correlation, I think, Ishwar, that you can really monetize, right? Even though you've got all these different components,
Yeah,
it's how you actually correlate them that produces a new set of data that has real relevant insights inside of
absolutely.
it. That's
Absolutely.
really, I can just imagine where bringing all of these things together, whether it's, democratized publicly available data, your own data, what have you, and putting it all together, that makes it really a powerful engine at the other end of the day. What other kind of great, innovations are you seeing just in your business model, as it pertains to technology?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Let me give you a couple of examples here. Usually, what used to happen, Ola, is before, if let's say there is a hail damage, right? So there is a hail damage on your house, and a claim adjuster would come to your house. They had to climb up your roof, and they might not be able to get to all the spots, but they would somehow get in there with a ladder and take some photographs, and then once those photographs are there, they would download them and assess what is the value, damage, and all that, and then give you a kind of a quote and whatnot. So you can imagine how much effort is involved in doing all of that. At the same time, there is also hazard of people falling down, and that leads to more claims and all sorts of things. So what we are doing is a little bit interesting in our claims area. Now that we have these fancy drone technology, and drones have been equipped nowadays with all sorts of gadgets. I mean, drone, it's not just camera, it has heat sensor, it has gyroscope, it has a lot of things associated and put it in a small device. So what we are trying to do, and we started that work earlier this year, our claims department started earlier this year, basically is there are companies who actually provide these drones where you can fly the drone on top of a building where the damage is, and basically get takes all sorts of photographs and whatnot. And then when it comes back down, there is a software that can view everything back together in a 3D image, right? So now you
wow.
have 3D image of that house. And also the beauty of it is then it can also, because it's the photographs are in 4K, or even better than that, you can pinpoint where exactly is the damage and what kind of damage it is. That will allow us to basically do a really good estimate of what the actual damage is, and then provide support as such. So you're eliminating all sorts of climbing up and down, and the photos in an awkward situation. With the small click of a button, you don't have to be a expert in flying drones, right? You just click a button and let the drone know where you want it to fly, and it does all the work for you. So we've been experimenting with that, and it can be used in multiple places, not just claims area, right? So what we are trying to do next is basically to see, before we take the risk, right? So before we say we're going to write this business, we can use that as a loss control. We can fly the drone and figure out where all things are. That way we can actually charge the right premium, and that is going to help both. Actually, if there are issues, then we can pinpoint to the customers and say, look, there are some things here we want you to address, because that might impact you. So not only claims area, we are going to do that in the loss control underwriting area as well. So very fascinating use case there.
This feels like it really enhances the customer experience, because now instead of having to wait potentially weeks maybe for a payment, within I don't know how fast it is, 24 hours, I might be able to understand what my adjustment is going to be, so I can start to get my roof fixed, which is that's got to be a great customer experience. Are you seeing some positive results there?
Yeah, we are. I think it's still in an early stages of this technology being adopted and accepted. Because what happens, John, is when you take 4K image photography, right? So if you take that, it takes time to view all of that back together. So
Yeah.
it's not that easy, and the software takes time because it has to make sure it mixes and matches everything. It has to be perfect. So there are some changes that are happening. adoption will definitely increase. Just to give you an example, initially when this came about, contractors, I'm sure when there is a hail damage in your area, there are contractors, there are people come in and say, oh, there was a hail damage. We will climb up and then look at it and then give you an estimate. I'm sure there is hail damage. I mean, you might have seen people like that, right? So
Yeah.
we call them, there is a name for them. I
Crooks.
forgot. Sorry?
Crooks.
And basically, what happened is initially there was a lot of pushback from those guys.
Yeah.
Now they are using this technology more than anybody else
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
because they don't have to climb up there. I mean, they can in fact just come to you and say, "Can we fly a drone?" And within few minutes, they get the assessment and they can go and start talking to you about what they can do. I mean, I'm not sure that is. Like you said, it's a good business, but that's helping them as well, right? So it's
Yeah.
definitely helping them, and they are the, if you look at who is using this technology more than insurance companies, those guys are using it more than insurance companies.
Wow.
Well, and having lived in Texas for 30 years in Dallas, and having actually had that happen to me twice,
Yeah,
roof
yeah,
replacements because of hail damage. I can tell you, I had a 2-story house, and just seeing the guy on the giant ladder going up and down, that was one issue. Just as a consumer, I'd be like, I
yeah,
really don't want that guy to fall on my property.
exactly,
So I
exactly.
think customer satisfaction. But the second thing that I could foresee is that, as an example, in both of those cases, even though they went up on the roof, looked over the roof, there were places where they just didn't look
Yeah,
because it was hard to get to.
yeah,
And I ended up paying more in both cases than the original estimate because
Oh,
they found something different when they got up there and started, tearing things off. So I can see if we have censoring technology and that sort of thing in the drones, and it will only get better over time. So you're
exactly.
removing people from, obviously the claims adjusters or otherwise, from climbing up on a roof and having that as a problem. But secondly, I can imagine you'll get better and better and better from the technology in terms of being able to actually identify where the
Absolutely.
actual problems are in the area. I think it's fascinating.
It's
Yeah,
no,
Ola,
that's absolutely the point. Is that when you send somebody up there, they might not be able to find all the things
yeah,
because it's very awkward to sit there and take photographs and
yep,
whatnot. This
yep.
will allow you to scan the whole area and then gives you images in 4K or even better that you can do a better estimation. So yeah, definitely better solution.
Ola, when you think about our clients outside of insurance, are other industries as aggressively utilizing and thinking about disparate data sets like weather data and other data sets? What are you seeing in the market?
Absolutely. And I think it's in areas, not obviously not just insurance, but in any areas where I need additional or could use additional information that maybe I just haven't had access to before. Think of traffic data that I
Yeah.
can marry up, right? I mean, traffic data for an auto insurer has got to be wonderful data because I can go back and look at what was happening at the time of an accident, as an example,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be able to assess how fast the traffic was going. But there's all kinds of different industries that I think could utilize data that's available from public sources. And to Ishwar's point, some of this data is completely free. It's not. I don't even have to pay, or I'm paying very very little for it. It's the correlation. It's the piece of information about traffic and the piece of information about weather and the piece of information about the car and the piece of it. It's taking all of that data and correlating it, and then I know, Ishwar, you've got to be in the insurance industry looking at AI, because now I can take all of this information,
Yeah.
I can put it into, I can abstract it down into an AI model that starts to actually correlate outcomes. So it's not just correlating the data to each other, but it's then saying, what kind of outcomes could I see? What kind of patterns do I start to see develop? So for insurance, that's a lot of that's about risk testing.
Yep.
But frankly, I just think of anything where I am trying to identify probabilities, let's
Yeah.
say, anything that's related to probabilities is going to be just incredibly, this is just going to be an incredible use case, I think, for anyone is how that data comes together.
I love that. That's a great
Yeah.
example. I love it, and so we'll see more of this, especially with the AI piece. Ishwar, on when you think about some of the other things that are just important to do, how are you utilizing OCR and AI with regards to, I know you're working with like third parties, HTC, Global Tech, and
Yeah.
others. How are you leveraging technology to take friction out of the system internally at Hastings?
Yeah, there are many good examples, Sean. Let me highlight a couple of them. We talked about drone and what it can do, and same applies to auto damage as well. So we are in fact taking one step further in the auto damage, again in the claims area. And our claims team is very fascinating, led by really dynamic leader. Tim Mann is a chief claims officer, and they're doing some phenomenal stuff there. And that's why I want to highlight. And it's important as well, because in insurance, you buy insurance so that when something happens, you should be able to get that fixed as quickly as possible, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of so in the auto damage side, what we're trying to do is, um, again, it all depends on the picture. Once you take the picture, basically, there is an AI engine behind. We're working with a third party there, AI engine behind, which looks at all of that and basically decides, okay, these are the areas where there has been impact, and then translates that into a estimate immediately,
Wow.
because it's not as difficult as flying a drone. And also, and then at the same time, as soon as you upload the photos and then the estimation happens, you can in fact cut a check or send money
Wow.
into their bank account directly. I mean, that kind of expedites the whole process. We are also kind of piloting that this year, and then hope to operationalize that next year as well. So again, it's all for the benefit of our claimants, and how fast we can do. And this is where taking that computer vision, like pinpointing, and then converting that into a good estimate that can then be delivered as quickly as possible. So that's kind of one example I can think of where we've been using AI, all sorts of like computer vision, estimation process. And in fact, if the estimation process is not right, there is a way to correct it, and then AI learns from it, and the next time when it happens,
Hmm.
then you don't have to worry about it. So
Hmm.
fascinating technology there too.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah,
And your customers have got to just, they don't really care why their
yeah,
claims are being processed more quickly,
yeah,
right? But I can imagine that as you're establishing some of these new technologies, that your customer experience results have been improving. Have you seen that, or are you
yeah.
anticipating that, and to what level?
Yeah, I think it's we've been tracking all of that, Ola. Yeah,
Good.
of course. I mean, without that, it doesn't make sense
Yeah,
to
that's true.
deliver, right? So that's the key. And we've observed some definitely improved customer satisfaction numbers, and we will continue to monitor that, because that's the key, is to provide them the support they need at the time they really need it, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of what our motto is. And we've seen some really good, especially on the auto estimation side, some really good results. The only thing I would say, drone, is that it takes time to weave all of that. So once that is
Mm.
figured out, I think we will start seeing more good results there as well, from the customer experience perspective.
Well,
Ishwar,
the good news is I think that AI engines do learn, as you say, and so they'll get smarter
Absolutely.
and faster and better at being able to pick
Absolutely.
out which of those
Absolutely.
photographs they really need to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, because they'll start to figure out patterns. I
they'll
think the
send
whole
us the
subject
check,
is,
Ola, before the damage happens.
well, that might happen.
Um,
You never know.
you never know. Ishwar, when you think about you being a CIO, you're in the insurance business.
Yeah.
There's always talks about, we've heard some executives talk about, well, we may be an insurance firm or whatever type of business we're in, but we're really a tech firm now. And I always get nervous about that because I think you have to stay focused on what you do. How do you leverage third party groups, or how do you take advantage of that so you can focus on your core and let others focus on what they do best? How do you leverage that and balance the internal resource, the external resource, thought leadership,
Yeah.
IP? I know it's a big question, but it's an important one.
Yeah, there are a lot of debate, John, about whether it's a technology company, and in fact, you can argue that any company that is out there is a technology company these
Yeah.
days, right? So doesn't matter what you sell. Is Amazon a technology company? I mean, you can argue that it is. You
Yeah.
can argue that it is not, right? So But the core of it all, from our business perspective, we sell insurance.
Yeah.
That is our core. And so what I want to do from as a CIO of this company is to enable our business to get access to provide any support they need to better service our customers. That's kind of what it is all about. I give an example when people ask me a CIO role, right? So especially in the Midwest, what do you do? Do you fix computers? I said, no, 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 that's not it. But how do you explain that, right? So the way I explain it is, have you seen James Bond movies?
Oh
Oh
I'm
yeah.
yeah.
sure you all have seen James
Yeah.
Bond movies. I'm not James Bond as the CIO. What do you think? Who do you think I would be? Actually, I'm Agent Q. You know,
I was
who
gonna
you
say you're
talked about
Q.
that.
You're definitely Q.
Oh
So
my God, I love that.
yeah, yeah. So that is my role, is to provide all those fancy gadgets that James Bonds, our underwriters, our sales guys, whoever marketing guys use to get more business, profitable business, at the same time service our customers in a better way. That's kind of what my role is, and I don't want to be the James Bond. So the what I mean by that is that insurance is still the core of our business. We
Hmm.
sell
Yeah.
insurance, and
Hmm.
my role is to enable, look into the future, bring in solutions that will help us go forward and service our customers better. That's who I am
That's
as
I
a
a
love
CIO.
that.
great. That's a wonderful analogy. I think that's a really, really great analogy.
That is
Yeah,
good.
and when I said that to an agent, they're like, "Oh, now I see." I mean, that simplifies the whole thing, right?
Of course.
And then they
Of
put
course.
their tux on and they go out and sell insurance. I love it. Um, so how do you balance too as a CIO? Are your conversations, have they changed in your career with regards to how you interact with other departments, with your CEO? I could imagine 20 years ago, you were in some cubicle in the corner of a basement somewhere, fixing the computer, so, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, how is that evolution for you as a CIO? Where are you spending a lot of time talking
So,
internally?
very interesting question, John. The execution, for example, is given, right? So, meaning that you have to deliver the foundation, the rate changes, the bread and butter associated with insurance. You have to do that.
Yeah,
Definitely, there's no question about it. Where I am getting more engaged with the business is at all the strategic discussions. We now have a relatively new CEO. Renee Buford took control about a year and a half back, almost 2 years in a few months. And she's been challenging her whole team to do better, to think strategically. And she has given us a target that we all have to achieve. So I am more engaged in those discussions to look at our true north, and figure out a way to get there faster. And so the things that we are doing, all these things we are doing agile, we are doing data, we are doing uh, stuff on the digital front, bots, and everything that we are trying to do is to make sure that we have that in our focus, right? So true north, and how can we get there faster? That's our goal. And so that's where I'm spending most of the time these days. I have a fabulous team that kind of takes care of everything else. I mean, data, I don't have to worry because I have a Randy Sykes who takes care of data. Like any, I mean, he's so passionate about data. I'm really happy that he's part of my team. I have other people who kind of in the similar boat. Infrastructure, I don't have to worry about it because we run a lean machine here. If somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I can outsource it," you cannot do it much better than what we do. So that's kind of where once you have this foundation and support from your team, I can then focus on what is strategic, look forward, and then start bringing in those solutions.
Ishwar, this has been a tremendous conversation
It
today.
really has.
You've reinvigorated my interest in insurance. Um, and I'm going to go out and get myself a drone for sure. Thank you
You
so
do
much
that.
for your time.
Thank you, thank you, thanks
Thank
for
you
the
so much.
conversation. Take care, Ola.
It
Take
was
care, John.
great. Bye bye.
Ola, wow. Good stuff, huh?
Oh, I think back to just watching that guy getting up on my roof and my nerves about he's going to fall, and it's just amazing what technology can do for us these days, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. In the simplicity of things like thinking about a drone really keeping people safer, it's a real have to. I'm
Mhm.
really impressed. Like that's the kind of technology that makes an industry better. So looking
I agree.
forward to hearing more of what people do with drones and AI and all the other cool stuff. Great stuff.
Me too.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.